What's up, everybody, and welcome once again to Syracuse Basketball Postgame, presented by Krause Health, the exclusive healthcare partner for Syracuse Athletics. My name is Brent Axe. Syracuse hit as many three-pointers against Notre Dame as I hit against Notre Dame today. That's right, big fat donut. Syracuse, for the first time in 10 years, fails to hit a three-pointer in a game, and the last time that happened in 2014 was a 72-48 win over Holy Cross that 99% of the people watching this show forgot about a long time ago, and a meaningless otherwise blowout win for Syracuse. You can go without a three-pointer when you beat a team like that, 72-48. In an ACC opener, you kind of need to hit a three. So you're telling me that Syracuse played one of the best defensive teams in the country on Tuesday night and hit 6 3-pointers in Tennessee, but goes to South Bend and plays a bad Notre Dame team that's missing its best player, like unfortunately Syracuse is right now, and they don't hit a single three-pointer in a game. Sports, right? So that was certainly a big story. Syracuse was pathetic at the free throw line once again, which dagger right to Uncle Brent's heart, as everybody knows, hashtag free throws matter. But you go 16 of 24 at the free throw line in a 5-point loss when you don't hit a three-pointer. That's the thing, guys. Syracuse didn't hit a three all day. They were in this game all day. It was there for the taking. Notre Dame is not a good team. Notre Dame's not a good offensive team. Notre Dame, I believe the Ken Palm number that Donna DeToda pointed out was like 306 in the country when it comes to pace of play. They're not fun to play, but it's not like this game was not there for the taking for Syracuse all day. Those two numbers were absolutely huge. Amongst some other things we will go over here on the show. We will certainly hear from our Syracuse Sports Insiders coming up, who are frankly losing faith, hope, and the thing that Syracuse really has to fear here is people are losing interest in this team. I mean, Syracuse basketball is always going to have a collective interest. People are going to follow this thing. I mean, it is the sport in Central New York, but given the huge boost of popularity the football program has right now with a 9-3 season, interest in the transfer portal, they're going to get their bowl destination on Sunday. I believe we're going to do a live pod after that bowl selection Sunday afternoon, so stay tuned on Sunday for that. We don't know what time they get their bowl destination. It's going to be somewhere between like 12 and 3 Sunday afternoon. So I'll let our Syracuse Sports Insiders let you guys know on social media about that. But this is frankly just a team that's hard to watch. It is a chore to watch this team play basketball. It's not a well-coached team at this point. I think there's talent on this team. I'm not completely absolving the players of certain things, but it's like we talked about after the Tennessee game, guys. There's no identity for this team. What am I watching? And you could just say, well, you don't know what you're talking about. And certain coaches have said that through the years, right? But tell me what I'm watching. What is the identity of Syracuse basketball? What is this offense? Red Autry is going through lineups like they're hockey lines, right? And half the time when guys are coming out, you're sitting there saying, well, why is he coming out in this spot? I'll give you an example. Jyare Davis is out there. He ended up with 20 points in this game and certainly was one of the bright spots, so I'm not putting it on him. He's rolling. He's hot. He's shooting. He's giving Syracuse effort in the paint, and he gets taken out, right? Some of these lineups, you just got to scratch your head, and Autry is searching. He is trying to find something that could be just representative of the fact that Chris Bell's not scoring, the fact that certain guys aren't doing their jobs, and you got to mix up the lineup. So to be fair, you'd rather that Autry push the button, mix up the lineups, and try and find something that works. But the more he does it and the more guys that get mixed in, and this is not, by the way, a smooth representation of what Syracuse fans have called for years, right? Play 8, 9, 10 guys. Maybe this is why Jim Boeheim and others warned against this for so much, because the further down the road you go, the more disorganized it can get. It just looks desperate and disorganized, and it's only 8 games into the season. But by now, you should have somewhat of an idea of what your rotation's going to be. And again, to be fair, J.J. Starling out. So you got to find the best way to replace him. But like I said, they just look like hockey lines. And it's hard to find something to grasp onto. And I think that's the problem that fans are having right now. You're certainly going to see it when we go to our Syracuse Sports Insiders coming up here shortly. What is this team? What are you watching, right? Give fans something to latch onto, and they're not doing that right now. And they are hard to watch. They are a chore to watch play this game. And if this keeps going this way, people are just going to lose interest and they're just going to move on and they're going to do. I'm already hearing from people like that are saying that. I half watched the game. Oh, they play today. Just like people are not locked in and engaged on this program. As I said in the last show, every time Syracuse basketball used to play not so long ago, the city would shut down, right? And you could walk by almost like any house in your neighborhood and the game's going to be on, right? If it keeps up like this, there will be engagement, but it'll be nowhere near the level that we're used to when it comes to Syracuse basketball. They're not interesting. They're hard to watch. And right now, not a good team. They've lost 4 of their last 5. They're 4-4 on the season. They are in no way, shape, or form an NCAA tournament team. They're going to be a bottom half ACC team at this rate. And other than that, how was to play, Mrs. Lincoln, right? But I am not trying to pile on here. There's a couple positives I'm going to go over, but I have to be honest with you, right? I'm not going to sit here and pat you on the head and tell you it's going to be okay when that's not how it looks. And that's not what you're telling me, not only our insiders, but a number of people that I talk to and the people around you, who around this team right now is saying, oh, it's going to be fine, right? It's going to be good. Maybe it will. Long season. It's December 7th, right? A lot of basketball to be played, but they just are not showing the signs that the natural progression they're going to need to be a competitive team. And I thought this would be, mea culpa, I thought this would be an NCAA tournament team. I was the most optimistic, I believe, in our preseason predictions because I saw a good team. I saw a team that could bounce back. And look, I think Mike Waters made a good point in his weekly mailbox, which you should always read because Mike's mailbox is fantastic, that maybe fans had too much of an expectation on Donnie Freeman, who, again, Donnie Freeman was great today. So you can't temper expectations when a guy goes out there and has yet another double-double. But when you're the highest-rated recruit, since take out the name Carmelo Anthony, okay, because you don't want to make that direct comparison. Micaiah Anthony's going to have to deal with that. He's in the family. When you're a top 10 recruit and the highest-rated recruit Syracuse has had in a number of years, that comes with expectations. That comes with an expectation in the college game today, in the one-and-done era, in the portal era, that you are going to come in and dominate, and fair or not. And I think Donnie Freeman's going to live up to that, right? He has a game like today where he has yet another double-double, but you look around some other places on the court and you see some issues. So you don't hit 1 3-pointer in a game. By accident, someone would hit. Now, Elijah Moore came close a couple times. His toe was on the line. Legitimately, by the way, they didn't take away a 3 from him or anything, but how do you not hit a 3? Like, how many teams in college basketball this year are going to go over in a game? Even on your most wretched shooting day, you're going to hit a few, right? Just by accident. But when you get outscored 24-0 at the 3-point line, and Notre Dame had 8 in this game, Shrewsbury, look at Shrewsbury. It tastes like a Shrewsbury. He had 25 points, 6 of 11 from 3-point range. He was barely guarded. Now, I think Syracuse's defense was actually better today than it's been in recent games, but he had way too many open looks in this game, and you can't lose track of that team's best shooter. Nobody else came close. It's not the traditional Notre Dame team that's got 3 or 4 3-point shooters on it, at the very least. In this game, that wasn't the case, but you can't let that dude get the open looks that he did. Free throws, I don't know what to tell you, man. I really don't. How are they practicing free throws? Is it a priority? Have you instilled, I don't even know how to put it, a fear into this team that it can cost you games? Have you prioritized it? They do practice free throws. I just wonder how they do it and just what the priorities are on it. Are they blowing it off? I don't know. But you can't continue to have these free throw issues, especially in close games. You're 16 of 24. If you're 20 of 24, let's give you 5 points, right? If they're 21 of 24, which is about what you should be, okay? You're either in this game, you lead this game, or perhaps you tie it and go to overtime. And I'm doing simple math here, but you hit the free throws at the rate you're supposed to. You hit a couple of threes. You walk out of there with an ugly win. But to make it that much more harder on yourself, not hitting all 3 in this game, and that points to Chris Bell, guys. Chris Bell is really struggling. Chris Bell had 4 points in this game. He took 5 shots. He was 0 for 3 from 3-point range. Chris Bell, this is going to sound harsh, but I'm going to say it, is useless on defense. He did have a block in this game and at times can show that he can move around on defense and do some things. But for the most part, Brent, you're being harsh there. Was he on the court late in the game when Syracuse needed their best shooter on the court late in the game? Was he on the court in other spots when it felt like there was more of a defensive lineup out there for Syracuse? Chris Bell is just not living up to what a veteran player needs to for this team. His shot is off. He gets down on himself. He missed a couple wide open shots in this game, by the way. It's not like he had to really work for his threes. Syracuse is not getting what they need from Chris Bell flat out, and that's without JJ or with JJ. Chris Bell all year has just not been living up to what you need. Not only do you need Chris Bell to be, but a starter on an ACC basketball team. Not that Syracuse has a lot of options if they bench him. I mean, the way Autry's moving things around like hockey lines, maybe they do. But you can't have your supposed best offensive weapon, and I say that not trying to be critical. I just say that that's what it is, right? I'm not trying to dump on him. I'm not trying to pile on him here. I'm just analyzing what I see. And game in and game out, he's just not the guy Syracuse needs him to be. So that's an issue for this team. Certainly Lucas Taylor had 2 points in this game. I mentioned Freeman with 20 and 11. Jyare Davis was great off the bench, but even in a great effort from him with 20 points and 4 rebounds. And I want to talk about Carlos because I've been harsh on Carlos, and we have to give credit where it's due. So I will get to that here shortly, trust me. But late in the game, you have Carlos taking a couple of shots. You have Lucas Taylor just run at the basket, some just kind of freewheeling street ball runner at the core, at the rim. No organization. Carlos did the same thing a few times. He's just kind of charging in the paint, hoping something happens. And you can't, I know that nobody else hit a three in this game, so why not Davis? But how is Davis, and he had a wide open shot at the top of the key, and he missed it, right? But how is Davis taking that shot late in that game? This is what I'm talking about with this. This is not a well-coached team. It's disorganized, and that shows in clutch moments that in a game you could win. For all what we're talking about, how bad this team is, they're in this thing all the way. It's right for the taking. It's in theory, it's a good thing you're playing another bad team and could swipe it away, but they just keep finding ways to, what's that expression? Snatch victory from the jaws of defeat or reverse that, however it is. Syracuse just, they barely had the lead in this game. Did they have that number out there? Let me see. Time with the lead. Syracuse, 1 minute and 13 seconds. They had the lead for 1 minute and 13 seconds in this game. That actually seems like a lot. When I just saw that, I was like, that actually seems like a lot. I thought it was less than a minute. Notre Dame had the lead for over 33 minutes in this game. So that disorganization, not being well coached, not knowing what to do in those moments, that shows late in the game. What is this offense? And these are things we have said before. I don't understand how Autry has inherited that. If you see an offense, and I'm not just seeing that, I'm all ears, because this is not just me that doesn't see that. This is, I hear from all, and look, Adrian Autry has forgotten more basketball than I'll ever know. I'll always say that. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm Red Auerbach, but I don't know what I'm watching. I don't know what that offense is. And there's too many carryovers from some things that we were critical of, fairly, in my mind, of the end of the Boeheim era. But I don't want to get into that comparison, but listen, we're about 40 games into the Autry era here. Tell me what his redeeming quality as a coach is. And I'm asking that rhetorically and somewhat critically. What is it about him that makes you say, man, that guy, he can coach? Rick Barnes said it after the Tennessee game, and I like Rick Barnes, and I have a lot of respect for Rick Barnes, but Rick Barnes doesn't watch Syracuse basketball game in and game out like we do. Maybe it'll come around. Maybe the light bulb will go on and something will happen, right? But I just don't understand what I'm supposed to be watching. And I don't want to just repeat myself from the last post-game show when we talked about this after the Tennessee game. But if you keep this up and don't give something people to latch onto, like, there you go. That's what I like about this team. They're just going to tune out, and they're just going to check out. And the worst thing you can have is apathy. You want passion. You want people to be critical of you because at least they're paying attention, right? The last thing you want is apathy. We're just like, whatever. I can't watch that team, right? I don't think we're there yet, but if they don't turn some things around and just show more, frankly, organization, then that's what's going to happen with this thing right now. So those are the big headlines from this game, right? I want to show you something that, let me say this about Carlos, then I'll show you something that a former player said on social media, okay? Let's be fair. I have been as critical of Jaquan Carlos as anybody. Jaquan Carlos was not the problem today. I brought up some of those plays late in the game, But when you look at a box score and have 8 points and 7 assists and only 2 turnovers from Carlos, I will take that. Carlos would have had more assists, frankly, if Syracuse made a couple of threes. He was finding guys in the paint. He was finding guys on the three-point line. He was creating. I thought his defense was pretty good today. Carlos has his struggles defensively, as we have seen all year. So this is not one of those days where Carlos was letting guys drive by him and score. Now, again, Shrewsbury was getting wide open shooting threes, but that was a lot of people's fault, not just him, right? Carlos was good today. I'll take that because Carlos did today what Adrian Autry says he should do. 7 assists from your point guard. I will take that. And a couple of plays he'd like back, but at least he's doing something. I'll take Jaquan Carlos driving into the paint, trying to make something happen. There was a shot clock violation late in the game, but no one's open. No one's moving. No one's giving him. The fact that he had 7 assists in this game is actually somewhat of a miracle, right? So props where it's due. Shout out to Carlos. He had a good game, and you want to see some consistency here. And by the way, the fact that Carlos had one of his best games, I know Notre Dame's not one of the best in the ACC, but Carlos has been struggling against Lemoyne, Colgate, Cornell, and teams that on a level he should be succeeding against, seeing what he did at Hofstra last year. The fact that he had his best game, potentially, against an ACC opponent is encouraging. That he can hold his own in the lineup because guys chop him more. Didn't have a good game today. Had a couple of great shots in the second half. Did light a little bit of a spark for Syracuse, but he had come off of consecutive games, back-to-back games, with a total of 43 points. He had 4 points in this game, which is going to happen. This is what I said on the last post-game show. We have to learn to accept and live with the fact that as much as Elijah Moore can go out there and light it up from three-point range and spark the offense, he's going to have he's a freshman. He's a freshman. He's going to have bad days. You have to accept that, and I have accepted that. I've been calling for more of Kyle Cuff. I've been wondering openly, not just being critical, actually wondering, like, is Carlos better than Cuff in practice? Why doesn't Cuff get the run he deserves? Cuff played 9 minutes today, scored a point. He had 3 fouls. So that, I think, factored into it, but Cuff's just kind of right there. I like his energy. I like how he can drive the basket. I like certain things about his game, but maybe we're seeing why. He can't quite crack the lineup for more than that. I still think he could play a role on this team, but maybe just not as big of a role as we thought. I'll eat that crow if I turn out to be wrong about that. Westry played 5 minutes today, and Autry has said, I don't know what he said in postgame after this one. I haven't seen it yet, but he has said that he can only handle about 5 or 6 minutes at a time. I mean, we'll see when Westry gets into air quotes game shape. He was handling the ball when he was out there. So if he can supplement that and step in, I mean, he got 4 other guards trying to figure things out with JJ out. His progress, slow but sure. Okay, so I brought up something that a former player posted on social media. Here it is. Can you figure out who posted that without the name being on there? So for those of you just listening, it's an orange graphic. It's got the score of the game, Syracuse 64, Notre Dame 69, watering down the legacy of 44. 5 points, 5 rebounds. That was posted by Derek Coleman. I find it interesting that Derek Coleman focuses on the 44, which, I'm sorry, I get the legacy, I get the number, but is nowhere near as dear to the hearts in basketball as it is football. John Wallace, Derek Coleman, absolute legends, okay? Derek Coleman, 1990, John Wallace, 1996. It's been 30 years since that number has meant anything in basketball, right? And I'm not trying to disparage that. I'm not trying to knock what those guys did, but this legacy of 44 right now, frankly, on the list of things people should care about in this team is like 144th. Why Coleman chooses to focus on the 44, it's whatever, what do you say, watering down the legacy? Eddie Lampkin had some back issues again. Played 20 minutes, 5 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. If you're watching this team and you think Eddie Lampkin's the problem, that's your own ego getting in the way. Plain and simple. Lampkin plays hard. Lampkin's a great passer. The back thing is that the issues are an issue because he can't make it through games. That's a problem. Syracuse, if you want to talk about something that's forget the legacy of the number. That's just, somebody who wore the number selfishly thinking about something like that. Syracuse spent a lot of money on Eddie Lampkin. In NIL, he's their only viable option at that position. Naheem McLeod didn't play today, and he's just not a guy that can give you more than 8 to 10 minutes a game. The issue is an injury. And when Eddie is out there, he is fighting his butt off to get through it. He's not the problem. He's not watering down anything. The problem is he's injured, which I'm not trying to brush that aside, because did you invest in somebody that you knew had a back issue and you were just hoping it didn't prop up? Did they not know about the back issue? Like, there's a lot of questions that arise from this. But to center in, to watch this game, and to center in on Eddie Lampkin and he's watering down the legacy of a number is absurd. He's not even close to the problem on this team right now. So, honestly, just get over yourself. You watch, and that's what you come away with, that the legacy of the 44 is getting watered down. There are so many other problems on this team right now. But look, that's his world. That's what he's into. I get it in a way, right? But come on, man. That's what you post on social media about this team. That is not the problem and nowhere near close to it. But I don't know. I just found that interesting. So those are the big things. I like that Donnie Freeman got a little more aggressive, is attacking the basket. I mean, Donnie Freeman had another double-double. He had 20 points and 11 rebounds. We were talking earlier about what Mike Waters said, and it's like, how do you balance the expectations? I mean, look, he can come out and have a game like this. He, as Mike puts it, and puts it well, oozes with potential, right? He's not quite there yet. He doesn't have the eye of the tiger yet. He still backs away from contact at times, but you can honestly say, if you're watching these games, Freeman's getting better. He's getting it. And I think half the problem with Freeman is, and this is getting better, to be honest, I think they figured this out, where he needs to be. Freeman's not a guy that should be, roaming on the perimeter. Freeman has to be in the paint, ready to attack the basket. And I think he knows that. I think that's where he's best found. Eddie Lampkin, number 44, found him on a couple of great passes. Carlos was looking for him. I think that is an example of a player who is progressing, not only at the rate he should be, but maybe is starting to get it a little bit more. And if you're going to give me 20 and 11 in a game like this, and by the way, he was 8 of 10 at the free throw line. Hey, I'll take that every time, and everybody else will. I love Jyare Davis. I love how he plays. I don't think he should be taking that 3 at the end of the game, but he was open. I mean, got to do something. Nobody else had hit a 3, so I'm not going to be too critical of that, but that was a part of his game we saw a lot of earlier in the year. These guys love to shoot 3s, and sometimes you have to try and balance that out as best as you can. But man, Davis is best around the basket. He can shoot it inside. He's a workhorse in there. And how many minutes did he play tonight? To come off the bench, play 25 minutes in this game, and you need those guys. Everybody can't start, and starting is overrated in a lot of ways. Who's in the game when it matters? Davis was in the game when it mattered. He played the game the way it needed to be played. He was great. So this is what I think is frustrating about this team is you see these moments, you see this talent, but they just can't collectively put it together. There's some individual things about this team to like, but collectively they're not on the same page. And again, Autry has forgotten more basketball than I'll ever know. It could improve, but what is it about how Autry coaches that makes you say, that's it? That's why he took over, and man, that's what's going to get this team through these issues. I just don't see it yet, and I want to be fair and let it play out. But I'm just seeing, and it's one thing if it's last year when you're in your first year as head coach and you still have a majority of Boeheim's team. This is your team. This is your team. These are your guys that you either recruited or brought in through the portal. The majority of this team is yours in year 2. It's not the hangover team that had some of those, which again, Autry recruited. Autry didn't parachute in here a couple of years ago. He's been a part of this whole thing. There's a major difference, though, between being an assistant and a head coach, right? So why do we still see some of the same issues that we saw. I don't think we've seen the clean break from the prior administration and now. And I guess it'd be unfair of me to expect, when you watch like a movie and they before the scene, what's that thing they got? It's like take two, right? And they go like this. You can't just go like this and now it's your team. I get it's a process. But I'm seeing a lot of the same things people were complaining about 3-4 years ago, right? So that's what they got to find. And again, Autry's trying to find it. It'd be one thing if he just threw the same 6 guys out there and didn't do anything about it. He's trying things, different lineups, mixing it up. It's almost like he's trying too much. So I think people are really starting to wonder how he manages a game, right? I'd rather see him try stuff than not and try and find that right combination. And again, you were starting to find it, and then JJ went down. But listen, you can't let the injury of JJ Starling be the death knell of this team. You've got to be good enough to overcome that if you're Syracuse and you live up to that orange standard, right? Here's what I know, though, and I'm going to hear from some Syracuse Sports Insiders here shortly. We are now, I believe it's either this week or I think it's December 10th, 2018, and it's December 7th as we speak. That's the last time Syracuse basketball was ranked in the Associated Press Top 25, 2018. It is December 7th, 2024, right? Just one of those things that hangs above this thing like a blinking neon light. You haven't been ranked since then, and you have missed the tournament 3 years in a row. Just got to keep bringing those things up here. I know it's December, and there's a lot of basketball to go, but that's what people know, and that's what people think, and you got to give an identity for people to latch onto, and you got to give people a reason to believe in what you're doing, to believe in what your philosophy as a coach is. And I just don't think he's getting that message across. He has the orange standard and some of the things that he has spoken about in media opportunities, but we are not seeing it in the most important place, and that is on the court right now at this point. Let's go to the Syracuse Sports Insiders. And being a Syracuse Sports Insider means you have direct text message access to me anytime, including during games. Love to hear from you guys during games, football and basketball, but you can text me anytime with your thoughts, questions, opinions, analysis. You guys were sending me your Spotify Wrapped, which we asked for. I was curious for those of you that get Spotify Wrapped and know what that is. Like, did Syracuse Sports make the list? Love seeing all you guys sending that. So, got to make the pitch, right? It's the perfect gift for the Orange fan in your life. It's $3.99 a month. You kidding me? What a stocking stuffer that is. You can try it free for a couple. You could try it free basically till Christmas and then decide if you want to stay on board through Christmas. So to sign up, join subtext.com/Syracuse Sports. The link is right there on your screen. You can also text the word orange to 315-847-3895. And just a reminder that only Syracuse Sports Insiders get their voice heard here on Syracuse Sports in our post-game shows. We do not take comments from social media. Once in a blue moon, we'll take a voicemail from the secret voicemail line, right? But that's even only available to insiders as well. So you want to get your voice heard on this podcast? Being a Syracuse Sports Insider is the way to do that, including Micah T. Says the new orange standard is a bunch of sour citrus. Jyare Davis says Autry is lost. Too much talent to be this bad. Well, Carlos was better today. Can't play 2 non-scoring guards and Carlos and Taylor for 30-plus minutes. As we mentioned, Autry just trying to find the right combo any way he can. Christian says this is a bad team. There's just no cohesion at all. Who ends up with more wins this season, football or basketball? Yikes. At some point, they need to use Moore and Bell together without JJ's scoring punch in the lineup. Unfortunately, it's a lost season, and they're only 8 games in, and Bell's not even scoring right now, right? From Roger W. says, at the end of the game, we have 2 guys on the floor who can't score. This might rival Boeheim's worst season, which was, 16 and 17 right before he stepped aside. Seth O says, no threes made is virtually impossible these days. Pardon, I got a drink of water there. Probably will be the only team in college basketball this season to do that. They might be. How many teams go an entire season without hitting a three? I'm curious to know what that number is. Stephen C. says, the sad thing is that a loss like this would have upset me for the rest of the day 10 to 12 years ago. Unfortunately, Not anymore. This is not the Syracuse basketball that we knew. 2 points there. One is the thing that Syracuse has to be afraid of the most, right there in that comment, apathy, right? People just don't care. They're not invested in it. You want people to care. You want people to be upset because that means they care. If they're just like, whatever, that's the problem. This is not the Syracuse basketball that we knew. Now, look, I think we're a little too hung up in history sometimes. But that standard has been set. If Autry is going to say this is the orange standard and not just his standard going forward, there's too much history behind this thing to at least not acknowledge it. Now, again, I brought up what Coleman said earlier. That's so far in the past, it's not worth bringing up, right? And it's nowhere near the issue on this team. But you can't ignore history. You can't ignore tradition. And you can't ignore that Syracuse is still trying to be in the conversation with the top teams in this conference and somewhat in the country, right? But you haven't been ranked since 2018. The receipts aren't there to remain in that conversation. And history and tradition is important in college sports as much as you have to adapt or die. And Syracuse has done that. They are paying out NIL money. There are a lot of transfers on this team. It's not like they're Dabo Swinney and they're still not going in the transfer portal. And even so, they're in the ACC championship game, so it's still working for him. But I get what you're saying about that. I don't want to lean too much on the past, but you're not setting the standard of what you need to be right now. From Ryan F., who says, my fear is that we're approaching something similar to what Notre Dame and Louisville have gone through over the last 5-6 years, a complete program collapse into total irrelevance. One thing to be mid or average and missing the tournament, being unable to break through back into that top level. It's another when you are legitimately bad. Look, that's hard to argue against. This team is bad. This team is disorganized. This team is, again, it'd be one thing if there was something like, and again, it's unfair to compare it to football all the time, but at least with football, I know what they're going for there. I know what dart means. I know what the offense is. Fran Brown is very open. Not that Autry isn't. Autry will tell you what he's trying to do out there. It's not resonating. People don't know what they're watching, and that's half the battle. Like, you got to give them something to believe in, and they watch a team that just looks like they're running around for 40 minutes. Chris K says, that's the season, Brent. Sadly, this is a bad team with bad coaching, a sad testament to a program that was once elite. It'd be interesting to see how fans react with attendance going forward. But, guys, look, I've been accused of being negative. If I found positive texts to put in here, they'd be in here, right? I'll look before we end the show. I'll scan through the texts again. I'm not just picking and choosing to make my point. I did just see this text that I have to say from Antonio. Syracuse is now 4-4. They are honoring the legacy of 44. That's too good not to say. I'm sorry. But I'm just scanning through all my texts. I wish you could see the screen that I'm looking at here. I have no reason to make this up. But there are not any positive texts in here. I would put them in if there was. So I don't want to hear this, oh, you're just being negative. No, this is what people are saying, right? Michael L. says, SU should have beaten this mediocre Notre Dame team by 20. I don't think they should have beaten by 20. The last 10 games between Syracuse and Notre Dame have been decided by 10 points or less. So make that 11, by the way, because you add this score to the list. I don't think they got to win by 20. Just win a game on the road in the ACC that was there for hit a three-pointer, right? Like, I'm not on that level. I got another text from, shout out to my guy Bert, who's like, they should beat this team by 20. Get that, just beggars can't be choosers right now, guys. Just win games. Just win conference games on the road. I don't care what the score is. I'll even take out the expectation of a margin of victory, not even for entertainment purposes only. Just hit a three-pointer, hit your free throws, and get out of there with a 74-69 win, right? That's my expectation, and I don't really think that's much. From Keith D, who says, I'm sorry, I like Autry, but he appears to be over his head in managing the game. Substitutions and starting lineups are real head-scratchers, and we'll close with this comment from Mike W, who says, this is 100% coaching, all isolation, no plays, no screens. We do the same thing every time on offense. I can't disagree with that. If I was seeing something, and again, I'm not a basketball savant, so if you are seeing things basketball-wise that I'm not, tell me what I'm missing so I can say that. I want to be fair about this. What am I missing? What are they trying to do? And I would ask these very questions. I just Was it in South Bend today? Next opportunity I get to ask Autry. We'll see how the Tuesday night game against Albany goes at the Dome. You can't take anybody for granted these days when it comes to Syracuse. These are the questions I will ask. But if you have this many people seeing it, or in this case, not seeing it, something's missing, right? Something's missing. Great text as always, guys. Would love for you to become a Syracuse Sports Insider. And as we noted, what a great holiday gift, not only for somebody else, but for you. For you. Text me anytime, including during games. Your comments highlighted on this post-game show. Syracuse Sports Insiders. We got something brewing. Our friends on the Bills Shout podcast do this a lot, so you probably know what I'm talking about if you listen to that pod as well. We're going to start having insiders come on the pod itself more. The Axe Brent Anything segment has been very popular, so we're actually going to do that more in a sense. More details to come on that coming. Post-game shows after every Syracuse basketball game. I mean, they keep playing like this. I hope you guys still come by and watch the show. And I'm not just talking to myself here. So we'll be doing that. So we're speaking Saturday afternoon here. And as we speak, we don't know Syracuse's, to switch to football for a moment, what their bowl destination is. So ESPN starts this show at noon on Sunday. And a lot of it is certainly dedicated to the college football playoff and how the seedings rank out, right? And they're going to determine the playoff. And boy, that could just be a bleep show in and of itself based on how things go. Then they kind of trickle out the bowl assignments. It's like a 4-hour show. So I'm not sure what time we're going to know Syracuse's bowl destination. I would imagine and hope it's before the Bills game tomorrow, which is a 4:30 kickoff against the Rams. But the plan is I'm fairly certain that I'm going to hop on when Syracuse gets its bowl destination after we hear from Fran Brown, which I believe we will hear from Fran Brown tomorrow, and we'll talk some football, the bowl matchup, and kind of get that conversation going. So hang out for that Sunday. I'll certainly text our insiders when we're going live for that. And look, the transfer portal opens Monday. We've seen a lot of players announce their intentions to go into the portal. Who are the quarterbacks that Syracuse is tracking? Who are the players that Syracuse is tracking? Who from Syracuse will go into the portal? Hasn't been a lot of guys so far. Anwar Sparrow and one other linebacker who his name is escaping me at the moment. That's it. But who's playing in the bowl game? Kyle McCord saying on Friday he's still not sure. It depends where and what the matchup is, right? Other guys on the fence like Marlo Axe, LaQuint Allen, Justin Barron. We'll start to get answers to all those questions, right? Football is still very much on our lips. With the bowl game coming up, the portal, all those things happening. We will be discussing all of that on Syracuse Sports. So please subscribe on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get this podcast so you can keep up with that conversation. And I'd love to hear from you on our Syracuse Sports Insider text line about what you're thinking about all of that. For now, we will wrap up this edition of Syracuse Basketball postgame presented by Krause Health, the exclusive healthcare partner for Syracuse Athletics. The Orange lose to Notre Dame 69-64. The Orange have lost 4 of their last 5, and they are now 4-4 on the 2024-25 season. We will talk to you next time, guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.